The Galactic Council Hall was the most powerful place in the known universe. Planets rose and fell because of the decisions made inside its shining walls. Delegates from 1,000 worlds gathered here, speaking languages older than Earth's oceans, wearing robes woven from starlight and armor forged in suns. It was a place of respect, of history, of diplomacy. But today, it was a place filled with laughter. And all of it was pointed at one world. Earth. Admiral stood alone on the center platform, a circle of white stone surrounded by rings of council members rising higher and higher like a mountain of judgment. Her posture was straight. Her hands were steady. Her voice had not trembled even once. But the laughter cut through her like shattered glass. One delegate, tall and insect-like with blades instead of hands, slapped the table and hissed with amusement. Humans claim they have a secret armada, a fleet that can defend the galaxy. His wings rattled as he laughed harder. Please, you humans barely defend yourselves. Another delegate, a crystalline woman from the Empire, flickered with glowing mockery. We scanned your borders, she said in a voice like breaking glass. We found nothing, no dreadnoughts, no battleships, not even patrol fleets. You bring warnings, but no proof. More laughter, louder this time, cruel. Did not smile. She did not flinch. She just stood there letting the storm of mockery wash over her. She had trained for years to master that stillness. But inside, deep inside, her heart ached. Humanity had worked so hard for respect, so hard to be seen, so hard to be treated as more than a young, fragile species. And yet here she was, standing alone in a hall full of beings who saw Earth as a joke. A delegate from the scaled Imperium thumped his tail on the floor. Tell us, human, he growled. Where is this great armada you speak of? Where are the ships that will save us from danger? His voice dripped with sarcasm. Lifted her chin. Her dark eyes held a quiet confidence that made several aliens pause. You scanned our space, she said softly, but you scanned only what we allowed you to see. The hall went silent. Confusion spread like fog. What do you mean, allowed? A counselor demanded. Looked around slowly, meeting the eyes of beings much older and stronger than her. Humanity has faced extinction before, she said. We have fought wars that nearly ended us. We learned that survival means being ready, even when no one believes you. Her voice was calm, but filled with weight. A scoffed, so you are saying your ships are invisible, hidden from every sensor, every scan. Yes, said. They burst into laughter again, waves of it shaking the hall. Some nearly fell from their seats. The idea seemed impossible, childish, ridiculous. A human fleet, invisible to every major empire. Impossible. Human imagination is adorable, someone mocked. Perhaps Earth thinks too much of itself, another added. Through all of this remained still, like a mountain beneath storm clouds, but her jaw tightened just for a moment, a tiny movement, a sign of the pain she refused to show. We did not come here for respect, she said. We came to warn you. The council chamber quieted, not because they believed her, but because the firmness in her voice demanded silence. There is a hostile force moving through the Perseus fringe, a force older and darker than anything in your records. They will reach our worlds within weeks. She looked around the room. We do not seek help. We only ask that you do not interfere with our defense. The delegate leaned forward. Interfere, he clicked. Humanity couldn't defend a backyard garden. What can you possibly do? His lips curved barely, a hint of a secret the council was not ready for. More than you expect. The words hung in the air like a storm about to break. One reptilian ambassador slammed his fist on the table. Human arrogance? If you had a fleet, we would know. No, said quietly, you wouldn't. Her steady confidence, her stillness, her refusal to bow to their mockery, it unsettled them. For the first time, several counselors looked at her not with ridicule, but with uncertainty. Just a flicker, but saw it. She bowed her head respectfully, even though none had shown her the same courtesy. Thank you for hearing Earth's warning, she said. Then she turned and walked out of the hall, her footsteps echoing across the polished floor. Behind her, the laughter faded, replaced by whispers of doubt. They did not know it yet. But by dawn, those whispers would turn into fear. Because by dawn, every human warship would be gone. Not destroyed. Not missing. Not stolen. Gone by choice. Gone by design. Gone to war, the council chambers were quiet now, the echoes of laughter fading into uneasy whispers. Delegates glanced at each other, their curiosity mixed with disbelief. But outside the polished walls, far across the blackness of space, Earth's real story waited in the shadows. A story none of them had seen and none could imagine. Admiral walked briskly down the corridor, her boots clicking softly against the marble floor. She did not hurry because she feared, nor because she was nervous. She walked with purpose. Every step carried decades of humanity's hidden struggle. Every movement whispered a promise the galaxy would soon understand. Humanity was not weak. She entered the secure chamber beneath Earth's orbit, a room no alien scanner could pierce. Here, the true fleet waited, thousands of ships, from small fighter skimmers to massive battleships the size of moons. They rested in deep-sea hangars, hidden desert bunkers, and hollowed mountains, invisible to any eye not meant to see them. Their engines hummed softly, alive but silent, ready for the moment humanity chose. Tapped a console, and holograms of distant galaxies shimmered into view. Red marks traced the path of a force that had yet to strike. The Swarm, a dark, ancient enemy spreading destruction from system to system like wildfire. Billions of lives were at risk if the Swarm reached Earth or her neighbors. His face was calm, but her eyes held a storm. "Fleet Command," she said into the secure channel. "Prepare phase shift alignment. Full fleet readiness in 6 hours. Confirm." A chorus of voices, strong and disciplined, replied. "Confirmed, Admiral. All units report ready." Her heart tightened not from fear but from responsibility. She thought of Earth, fragile beneath their protective shields. She thought of the children sleeping in cities that stretched across continents. She thought of her crew, trained for decades, their courage unwavering. Humanity was about to show the galaxy what it had always hidden, and she would lead them into the unknown. Back in the council hall, the aliens were still arguing. They had dismissed Earth as a small, powerless world, unworthy of concern. Some were annoyed, others amused, some genuinely curious about what the humans could possibly do. "Perhaps the Admiral exaggerates," one delegate said. "It must be rhetoric, political theatrics. Earth cannot be serious." Had anticipated this. She had known the council would never believe until it was too late. Their arrogance was as predictable as sunrise, and she let it be. Let them laugh. Let them underestimate. Every alien thought of Earth as a child until the moment the child became the predator. Meanwhile, far beyond council space, the Swarm moved like a black storm. Ships shaped like jagged mountains glided silently through the void. Swarms of smaller craft darted in deadly patterns, sensors scanning for prey. Their commanders had no idea humanity was coming, no warning of the tide that would meet them. Their arrogance would soon meet a price they could not imagine. Back on Earth walked among the command crew. Each officer knew their role, each soldier prepared for the fight. They did not speak loudly, they did not panic. Silence in the chamber was their armor. She stopped before the central console, and her eyes met the holographic image of the Swarm's fleet. "They think we are weak," she said, voice steady, echoing softly across the room. "They think we have nothing to show, and that is why they will not survive." Her words were not just commands. They were a promise, an echo of centuries of survival against impossible odds. Humanity had fought plagues, wars, and catastrophes that had nearly ended them. They had learned to hide, to endure, to wait for the right moment. And now the moment had come. The crew nodded silently. They understood. They had trained for this. They had lived for this. Every missile, every plasma cannon, every drone, every ship, all of it had been designed for one reason: to defend humanity and strike fear into those who doubted them. Activated the phase shift sequence. Across Earth, hidden hangars hummed with energy. Lights glowed briefly before vanishing. Ships trembled as if stretching after centuries of sleep. In a blink, they all vanished from the eyes of the galaxy, leaving no trace. The sensors of alien empires detected nothing. The Council would wake to find Earth's fleet gone, and they would panic. For a moment allowed herself a quiet breath. Her face softened. She thought of the people she had sworn to protect. The weight of command was heavy, but it was nothing compared to the weight of betrayal or failure. Humanity's secret was not power alone. It was their patience, their discipline, their unity. The hour came, gave the final order. Phase shift complete, fleet deployed, engage only when instructed, protect Earth at all costs. Her eyes lifted to the ceiling as if she could see the galaxy beyond. A quiet determination burned in them. They had been laughed at, dismissed, mocked. And yet in a few short hours the galaxy would learn what Earth truly was, not weak, not naive, not powerless, but unstoppable. Because humanity's war Armada had moved. And when the Council woke to their disappearance, the first taste of fear would spread across the universe like wildfire. If you want, I can continue with Part 3 in the same style, emotional, 750 words, where the fleet actually begins its secret deployment, and the alien council starts panicking. Do you want me to continue Part 3 now? Night fell on Earth like a soft, dark blanket, but it was no ordinary night. The oceans shimmered faintly, the deserts glowed under hidden lights, and the mountains held secrets older than most civilizations. Humanity's fleet was awake, moving silently, hidden from every scanner, invisible to every alien eye that thought it had already measured Earth. In the deepest underground hangars, vast ships the size of cities waited, their hulls humming with energy. Smaller craft floated above them, ready to dart like starlight through the void. Admiral walked among them, her boots silent on the metallic floors. She did not rush, she did not show excitement. Her calm was a shield, a signal to her crews that the galaxy would soon learn a lesson it had long forgotten: never underestimate humanity. She stopped before a massive dreadnought, black as space itself. Its cannons glimmered under soft lights, and the crew inside moved with precise synchronization. "All systems green?" she asked. "Ready, Admiral," came the quiet reply. "Waiting for your command." Nodded, then lifted her hand to the console. A low hum filled the hangar, as if the ship itself had been holding its breath for centuries. The engines flickered, then roared silently, powered by technology designed to be seen by none. Slowly the massive vessel rose, drifting through the hangar tunnel into the open sky. Outside, satellites passed overhead, but none detected it. None even imagined it was there. Across the globe, the same scene played out. Ships rose from hidden oceans, deserts, and mountain cradles. Fighters flitted past weather satellites, battleships lifted from the shadows, and every movement was flawless, precise, and unseen. Earth was empty in appearance, but it was alive with hidden power. In orbit's command voice echoed across the fleet. "Phase shift engines engaged, timing synchronized, we leave no trace." The fleet shimmered, then blinked out of reality. In the blink of an eye, thousands of ships vanished from the eyes of the galaxy. Alien sensors registered nothing. No signals, no signatures, no movements. The Council and their armies believed Earth was exactly as it had always seemed: small, quiet, defenseless. But that was the lie. Hours passed in the Council chambers. Delegates argued over missing data, scratching their heads. "All visual scans show nothing," one delegate hissed. "Every dock empty, every fleet gone. What trick is this?" "Impossible," said a crystalline ambassador, voice trembling. "They cannot have built this many ships. We would have detected even one." His plan worked perfectly. Every laugh, every mockery they had thrown at humanity became a weight on their own shoulders. They had counted Earth weak. They had counted her powerless. They had been wrong. Meanwhile, beyond the Council's reach, the fleet moved. Warp gates and hidden corridors in space carried them closer to the Perseus fringe, where the swarm had begun its dark march. Every captain, every pilot, every engineer was silent, focused, determined. They knew what was at stake, not just for Earth, but for the galaxy. Humanity had waited for this moment for decades, and they would not fail. In the command deck of the largest ship, looked at her crew. Young men and women, some barely out of training, some seasoned veterans, all prepared to face a threat bigger than most civilizations could imagine. "You have done everything to prepare for this night," said. Her voice was soft, almost gentle, but it carried the weight of the future. "You have hidden, you have trained, you have waited, and now—" Her eyes swept the holographic map of the approaching enemy fleet. We move, not as weak humans, but as the defenders of our home, as the protectors of every life we cherish. The crew nodded, holding their breath as the first phase shift engines activated. The void around them shimmered, space itself bending, and in an instant the fleet disappeared. The galaxy had no warning, no clue, no knowledge that a force stronger than many entire civilizations had just vanished from sight. Back at the council chambers, panic spread like wildfire. Alerts blared. Scanners had failed. Communication signals bounced empty across space. Every alien delegate realized with growing horror that Earth had disappeared from view. "What have they done?" hissed a reptilian ambassador. "They cannot simply vanish." "They are not just missing," said her voice trembling. "They have shifted. Out of reality, how is this possible?" His plan had worked perfectly. Every laugh at Earth's weakness, every mocking word, every sneer of the Council, the weight of it now fell upon them. They would see, soon enough, that humanity was no joke. Humanity was a predator the galaxy had not dared to imagine. And in the silence of space, as thousands of hidden ships moved toward the darkness where the enemy waited, Admiral whispered to herself, "They laughed at us, they doubted us, but by dawn they will know Earth is not afraid." Dawn came quietly across the galaxy, but it brought no peace to the Galactic Council. Alerts screamed across every chamber, screens blinked red, sensors flared like warning fires. The aliens who had laughed at Earth now stared in terror at the impossible. "All Earth fleets gone," shouted a crystalline delegate, her voice trembling like cracked glass. "Every dock, every shipyard, every orbital station empty, every signal, every trace vanished." The hall erupted in chaos. Delegates shouted over one another, claws, tails, wings, and crystal forms trembling with panic. They could not understand it. Their scans were flawless. Their spies had watched Earth for decades. And yet the planet that had seemed so small, so insignificant, had disappeared. Or worse, had taken its entire fleet with it. "They could not have done this," hissed an. "Impossible, every sensor, every scan, they should have been detected." "They were never meant to be detected," said a reptilian voice, lower than a growl. "This is deliberate." Some counselors tried to call Earth, but communications bounced back as empty signals. Every attempt failed. The realization began to sink in. Humanity had not only hidden its strength, they had perfected it. Meanwhile, across hidden corridors of space, Earth's armada moved silently. Nothing could detect them. Nothing could warn the galaxy. They were shadows among stars, carrying the weight of 1 billion lives and centuries of preparation. Admiral stood on the bridge of the flagship, her hands resting lightly on the rail. The crew moved efficiently, quietly, each knowing exactly what must be done. His face was calm, but her eyes burned with a fire the galaxy had never seen. "They laughed at us yesterday," she said softly, almost to herself. "They mocked our fleets, our people, our planet, and now they will see." The captain beside her nodded. "We have confirmation, Admiral. Every unit is fully operational. Phase shift successful. No detection. The enemy path is clear." His gaze shifted to the holographic map of the swarm advancing through the Perseus fringe. Billions of hostile ships, dark and jagged, moved like a storm across the void. They were old, ruthless, and hungry. "They think they will sweep through the galaxy unchecked," said. "They think they will destroy the weak worlds first. But they have forgotten one thing: Earth never lies down, Earth never waits helpless. We have only been patient." Back at the council, panic was spreading faster than fire across dry grass. Diplomats barked at each other, accusations flying. "Where are they?" demanded one delegate, wings fluttering. "Where is the fleet?" "They are coming," another said quietly, fear in her crystalline voice. "And we will see only the end if we do not act." Yet there was nothing they could do. Humanity's fleet had vanished into the void, unseen, unstoppable, and perfectly hidden. Every laugh they had cast at Earth, every mockery, every smirk, they now carried the weight of a deadly mistake. On Earth, the fleet moved in formation. Dreadnoughts glided silently past moons and planets, carriers released swarms of fighters like storms of light, and every ship was synchronized, a single organism of destruction and defense. The hidden armada was alive, united, ready. "Address the fleet through comms," her voice calm but powerful, carrying to every captain, every pilot, every soldier aboard each ship. Today, she said, humanity proves what it has always known. Strength is not shown in words. Strength is shown in action. They doubted us. They laughed at us. They thought we were nothing, but we are everything they feared, and we will protect our home. Every ship responded with a subtle hum, a vibration that could be felt in the bones. It was the voice of the fleet, alive, ready, and patient no longer. Back in the council chambers, desperation had set in. Delegates called emergency summits, debated alliances, tried to find a reason, an explanation, a way to predict what humanity might do next. But all attempts failed. Earth had chosen the moment. Earth had chosen the battlefield, and the galaxy had no say. Stood quietly on the bridge of her flagship, watching the stars streak by as the fleet approached the outer edge of the swarm's territory. She allowed herself a brief thought of home, of cities sleeping under morning light, of oceans sparkling, of children who would never know the fear the galaxy had just felt. Her heart swelled with pride. Humanity had survived. Humanity had hidden. Humanity was ready. And as the first blips of enemy ships appeared on the distant sensors, whispered softly to herself, "They laughed at us. They doubted us. They will remember this dawn for the rest of their lives." Because by nightfall, the galaxy would see that Earth was not weak, not small, not helpless. Humanity's armada had moved, and nothing would ever underestimate them again. Far beyond the borders of Council space, in the cold darkness of the Perseus fringe, the swarm moved like a shadow across the stars. Jagged warships, enormous and black, drifted silently, while millions of smaller craft darted like starlight, scanning every system for prey. They had destroyed entire civilizations in their hunger, believing no world could stand in their way. And then they felt it. Nothing at first, just the quiet hum of space, but sensors flickered. Scans went blank. Fleets they expected to see were gone. Every planet they expected to find lightly defended was now empty. They sensed a presence that did not belong, a power beyond measure. Some commanders paused, uneasy. "Where are they?" one hissed. "They should be there. They are missing." But the answer came too late. Suddenly, the darkness ahead shimmered. Space twisted like glass under heat, and the hum of invisible engines became a roar of sudden life. Ships that had been hidden for centuries emerged from nowhere. Dreadnoughts black as night, carriers bristling with weapons, fighters flashing like comets, all formed a perfect line of attack. Humanity's fleet was alive. Humanity's fleet was waiting. Admiral stood on the bridge of the flagship, calm yet resolute. Her eyes scanned the enemy, millions strong, and she allowed herself a single proud thought. The galaxy had never seen anything like this. "Fleet engage formation Delta. Release fighter swarms. Target priority, forward vanguard," she commanded. Her voice carried across every ship, every captain, every soldier, echoing like a heartbeat. The response was instant. Fighters shot forward, glowing streaks of light against the blackness of space. Drone swarms erupted from carriers, striking enemy ships with precision, tearing through armor that had seemed unbreakable. The dreadnoughts unleashed lances of concentrated energy, slicing the forward lines like lightning through clouds. The enemy screamed in their alien language, a chorus of rage and confusion. They had never faced a force that appeared out of nowhere, that struck with perfect timing, that moved as one organism across the stars. And the humans, they were fearless. Pilots whispered prayers, some held pictures of loved ones, some clenched trembling fists, yet no one hesitated. Each human ship moved as if guided by instinct, by training, by the weight of generations that had prepared for this day. Humanity had hidden, waited, and now it fought, not for glory, but for survival, for home, for a promise made long ago that the galaxy would not see them fall. The battle was immediate and brutal. Enemy ships collided with fighter swarms. Massive vessels tried to ram through the human lines, but drones and energy lances shredded them before they could reach striking distance. The darkness of the swarm ships became a canvas of fire and light as plasma erupted. Explosions scattered through void, and the void itself seemed to tremble with the fury of the fight. On the bridge remained calm, issuing orders with quiet authority. "Forward flank, hold steady. Delta formation, advance. Do not break lines." Her calm was contagious. Captains and crews felt it. a silent strength that made fear impossible. Humanity had been underestimated, mocked, and dismissed, and now they would see that mistake with every destroyed ship of the enemy. Time lost meaning in the battle. Hours stretched like days. Nebulae flared as the conflict spilled into clouds of gas and dust, each side attempting to outmaneuver the other. But humanity's fleet was unmatched in coordination, in discipline, in precision. The enemy had strength, numbers, ferocity, but the humans had something older, something deeper: resolve. From the observation deck of a dreadnought watched a swarm commander's flagship explode under coordinated fire. She allowed herself a single, small smile. It was not cruelty, it was justice. They had mocked Earth. They had laughed at her people, and now they were paying the price. "Keep formation," she said softly, almost to herself. "We do not fight for hate, we fight for home, we fight for life, we fight for every being they would have destroyed." The battle raged on, and yet humanity did not falter. Each human ship, each fighter, each soldier fought with unity and courage that even the galaxy's oldest races had never seen. Slowly, inexorably, the tide began to turn. They realized too late that they were facing not a fledgling species, not a minor threat, but a force the galaxy had never anticipated. And in the darkness, as explosions lit the void and the screams of the enemy echoed across space, Admiral whispered a quiet promise. "They laughed at us, they doubted us, but today they will remember that humanity never gives up, never surrenders, and never hides forever." The human fleet surged forward, unstoppable. And in that moment, the galaxy began to understand something terrifying, beautiful, and undeniable. Humanity was not a minor species. Humanity was a reckoning. The void of space trembled with fire and fury. The swarm, a storm older than most stars, had never faced resistance like this. Human ships moved with precision, like a single living organism, weaving between enemy lines, striking where the swarm was weakest, disappearing into shadows only to reappear and strike again. The galaxy had never seen such coordination. The enemy screamed, not just in pain, but in disbelief. Admiral stood on the bridge of the flagship, her eyes scanning the battlefield. Ships burned, explosions rippled across the void, and yet the human fleet did not falter. She had known this day would come. She had trained for it, planned for it, and now she watched humanity prove what it had always been, stronger than anyone dared imagine. "Forward flank, maintain formation, target the Leviathans." His voice rang calm but commanding over the fleet's communication channels. Every captain obeyed instantly. No hesitation, no fear, just action. Humanity had faced extinction before, had fought wars that could have ended its species, and had survived. That history flowed through every human in this moment. The enemy unleashed wave after wave of attackers. Bioships the size of mountains surged forward, firing energy beams that tore through human hulls. Entire squadrons of fighters were lost in moments, engulfed by the ferocity of the swarm. And yet the humans adapted. Drones swarmed to fill the gaps, energy lances cut through the Leviathans, and the carriers released new squadrons of fighters that struck with unerring accuracy. Every loss was accounted for, every move countered. In the midst of the chaos, allowed herself a glance at the holographic map. The swarm's flagship, the core of their operation, loomed like a shadow across the stars. One strike, precise and powerful, could break their formation. One moment could change everything. "Prepare the dreadnought lances," she ordered. "Synchronize fire, we end this." The command deck trembled as the engines charged, beams of pure energy pulsing like a heartbeat across the fleet. And then, in perfect synchronization, they struck. The beams tore through the enemy flagship like lightning through storm clouds, splitting it apart in a burst of fire and metal. Shockwaves rippled across the battlefield, scattering enemy formations, breaking morale. The faltered, confusion spread like wildfire through their ranks. Their advantage in numbers, their centuries of experience, their reputation for ruthlessness, none of it mattered against a force they had underestimated. Humanity's patience, humanity's discipline, humanity's unity, these were weapons sharper than any blade, faster than any missile. Moved from station to station, observing the battle, giving quiet guidance. She spoke rarely, but when she did, every word carried the weight of centuries of survival. "Do not break, protect each other. Every life is important. Every life is the galaxy's hope." And the fleet responded. Fighters shielded crippled vessels, drone swarms repaired breaches mid-battle, and human ships worked in perfect harmony. They were not just soldiers, they were guardians, defenders of a home they would never abandon. The swarm tried to regroup, but it was too late. Humanity had learned their tactics, anticipated their attacks, and struck where the enemy was weakest. Wave after wave of ships fell, swallowed by fire, shattered by energy, torn apart by drone swarms. The void was littered with the wreckage of an empire that had thought itself unstoppable. Hours passed like minutes. The human fleet, though battered and pressed forward, watched as the final lines of the swarm broke, their ships scattering into the void, leaderless and defeated. Humanity's fleet, though not unscathed, stood victorious. Every ship that could fight had survived. Every human who had trained for this moment had proven their courage. On the bridge, allowed herself a deep breath. Her eyes swept across the remaining fleet. The pride she felt was almost unbearable. Humanity had not only survived, they had won. They had shown the galaxy what it truly meant to endure, to fight, to protect. And yet knew this victory was more than survival. It was a message, a warning to any who would dare underestimate humanity again. They had laughed at Earth. They had mocked its weakness. They had assumed that humanity could be dismissed. And now the galaxy would remember. "Prepare for the return to home sectors," said quietly, her voice carrying over the fleet. "We have done what we came to do. We have fought for life, for our world, and for every soul in it. Now we go back, and we remind the galaxy Earth is not weak." As the fleet moved through the void, leaving the wreckage of the swarm behind, the stars seemed to shine a little brighter. For humanity had done the impossible. They had faced extinction itself and emerged victorious. They had broken the assumptions of the galaxy, and in doing so they had written a new story, one of courage, unity, and the unstoppable will of a people who would never be underestimated again. Stood silently, her eyes reflecting the endless void. She whispered softly, almost to herself. "They laughed at us, they doubted us, but humanity has always survived, and now we are stronger than ever." And with that, the fleet turned toward home, a living testament to a civilization that would never bow, never hide, and never surrender. The Galactic Council waited in tense silence. Days had passed since the alarms first went off. Every scan, every attempt at communication, every calculation had returned nothing. The human fleets had vanished. The delegates had mocked Earth yesterday, but today they were consumed by fear. "Where are they?" hissed an counselor, wings trembling. "Why have they not returned?" "They cannot have survived," whispered a crystalline delegate, her voice soft, filled with disbelief. "No species could face the swarm and live." But the council had no answer, and before they could plan, before panic could fully consume them, the sky outside their station shimmered. A soft blue glow spread across the darkness, faint at first, then brighter. Ships, thousands of them, began to reappear in formation. Their hulls were some dented, some bearing marks of battle, but everyone was alive, everyone whole. Humanity had returned. Admiral stepped onto the council platform, her uniform still simple, her expression calm. Behind her, the human fleet formed a protective wall around the council station. No one spoke. The delegates had no words. The air vibrated with awe, fear, and respect. Held up a small hollow device. It flickered to life, showing images from the battlefield, ships burning, the chaos of their defeat, the precise and flawless coordination of human forces. Silence fell heavier than any roar, heavier than any insult. This was proof, proof of power, proof of patience, proof of humanity's truth. A reptilian counselor stepped forward, trembling. You survived, you defeated them." His voice was soft but carried across the chamber. "Yes, we survived, we fought. We protected our world, and in doing so, we defended the galaxy from a threat none of you could have stopped." The delegates looked at each other, shock etched into their faces. They had counted humans as weak, as children in the galaxy, as a joke. They had laughed at Earth's warnings. They had mocked the Admiral. And now they understood the truth. "You underestimated us," continued. "You dismissed our fleets, you ignored our warnings, you laughed at our people, and you were wrong, every one of you." Some counselors lowered their heads in shame. Others simply stared, unable to speak. The reality of human strength, discipline, and courage was undeniable. Humanity had not only survived a deadly enemy, they had dominated it. They had proven in a single sweep across the stars that Earth was a force no civilization could ignore. Walked slowly through the chamber, each step measured, echoing through the stunned silence. She paused before the tallest council member, the oldest and most powerful delegate in the hall. "We did not come here for recognition," she said quietly. "We came to protect life, to protect our people, and to remind the galaxy that weakness is a choice and humanity never chooses it." The delegates felt the weight of her words. For the first time, they saw humanity not as fragile, not as naive, but as an unstoppable force. The arrogance they had held, the laughter they had shared, they felt its consequences now. The human fleet outside remained in perfect formation, silent, unwavering, a living testament to centuries of preparation, ingenuity, and resilience. Even from battle, it radiated strength. Even in victory, it was disciplined, controlled, and united. One by one, delegates approached, not to challenge, not to mock, but to acknowledge. Words were unnecessary. Respect was understood. Fear was understood. The galaxy had learned a lesson that could not be erased. Humanity was no longer underestimated. Humanity was a reckoning. Turned back to her fleet, then raised her voice, soft yet commanding. "We have returned not for war, not for conquest, but for balance. The galaxy is vast, full of threats, but today, Earth has proven that courage, unity, and determination can overcome even the oldest, darkest forces." A low murmur of acknowledgement passed through the council. They had witnessed what they thought impossible. The laughter, the mockery, they had ended, replaced now with awe, respect, and for some, fear that they might one day face the same wrath if humanity were challenged again. And in the silence that followed, allowed herself a single, quiet smile. She thought of the people she protected, the families across Earth who slept peacefully, unaware of the cosmic storm that had passed. Humanity had shown its truth to the galaxy, but its home remained safe, untouched, proud. "They laughed at us," she whispered softly. "They doubted us, but humanity always survives, and humanity always protects what it loves." The council hall remained quiet. The galaxy had seen the impossible, and humanity had spoken, not with threats, not with boasts, but with action. The vanished Armada had returned victorious, and the message was clear: never ever underestimate Earth. As walked back to her ship, the council floor empty of mockery and full of respect, the stars outside seemed to shine brighter. Humanity had risen, fought, and returned. The laughter of yesterday was gone, only awe remained. And in that moment, across the galaxy, a single truth became undeniable: humanity was unstoppable.